Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna. I hope that you're having an amazing day. And it's been a while since I've sat down and chit-chatted with the camera, or you, whoever's watching. And I wanted to sit down and do a video because I do know that there is a new intake of EPIK Teachers heading over to South Korea. And I wanted to give you guys, if you happen to be part of that group, some tips on how to survive your first couple of months here in South Korea. I have been living in South Korea, specifically Daejeon, South Korea, for about a year and a half, a little bit over that. And while the second year has been highly stagnant in terms of travel and all of that, I do think that I've got a pretty strong idea of things that will help you out. So if this is something you're interested in, definitely please keep on watching. Okay, so I do have a list that I'm going to be looking at. So if you see me looking down, it's probably just because I can't remember what I wrote. So it's for you, and for me to stay organized. Okay, so the first tip that I have is to wear a mask. This is highly specific to 2020, aka Corona times, and just a lot of poor choices were being made, like going out to bars and acting like it was 1920s all over again, going everywhere that they shouldn't have been going. And I don't want to sound like a mom or a grandma or whatever it may be, but do understand that you're coming here to teach, and so that means that you are going to be around children, you're going to be around teenagers, you're going to be around other staff members. And I maybe sound like I have a stick up my butt, but I truly do believe that you really have to take into consideration your surroundings, and please make sure that you are being as careful as you can be. I know it's exciting, you're in a whole new country, you left America, the land of the corona, if you're from the States, or you left your country that maybe is doing somewhere along the lines of Korea. But the point is that you're here, you're in this country, you're a guest, and you know, really, even if you see people not wearing a mask, please make sure that you do. Obviously, especially, I think it's mandatory, you have to wear one in class and around school. But in your day-to-day life as well, please make sure you wear a mask. Do not skimp on that. Do not act like you're above Corona. Please, I beg of you, as someone who's been here and tired of seeing just foreigners and Koreans alike just wandering around here. Like there's no Corona, like there's no pandemic. No matter what the numbers are, don't get complacent. But let me get off my high horse here. 2. Okay, so you are in your school. Everything is looking great. You've met your co-teachers, you've met other staff members, you're going to meet your students soon. Life is grand, right? Make sure that you are communicating. You're gonna have so many questions. You're going to feel like you thought you understood what someone was asking of you, and then it turns out when you show up to class that you weren't, and you just feel like there's this constant barrier, right, or gap between what is being said and what is being understood. So over communicate. I highly suggest that you ask every single minuscule question that you have to your co-teacher or to anyone who's able to help you. Do not assume that you know how lessons should be ran. Do not assume you know what lesson is up next. Do not assume that you know like what is going on at school, because 9 out of 10 times it's going to change within 5 minutes. So don't, on top of over communicate, don't get used to anything. Things are constantly going to fluctuate, and that's just how things work. So please make sure that you over communicate and that you understand that things are going to change at like the drop of a hat, the flip of a dime, whatever the saying is, and to just kind of be ready for that. You're gonna have summer camp planned, and then you're gonna find out it's moved over a week, or it's gonna be shortened or cut, or the theme's not gonna work, or you're over budget. Like literally everything and anything can happen at any moment. Just be ready for that, and don't kind of beat yourself up over it. It can be frustrating at times. I know. I planned, for example, this week I planned to do lesson 6 period 2 in a 6th grade class, and then I was told that actually on Thursday class will be canceled in favor of some kind of ceremony. And so I had to scrap my lesson that I worked really hard on and create a review. And that's just gonna happen, and that's just the reality. And you wanna over communicate, you wanna make sure that you get your co-teachers to try to communicate things ahead of time, but also have the grace and understanding to recognize that a lot of times things are out of your co-teacher's hands, and ultimately a lot of the decisions are not up to them. It's up to someone higher up, and they're just relaying the message. So don't shoot the messenger, because 9 out of 10 times it might also not be up to your co-teacher. Okay, so that's like a 2 and a 3. All right, so my next point is to try to make friends in other provinces. Now, I am not, and I hope I'm not held accountable for this, I am not telling you to travel through South Korea willy-nilly during a pandemic. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is to try to make sure that you do have friends in other provinces, should you have the opportunity to visit them safely. You know, I know people who made friends only within their province during orientation, and the reality is that you're going to want to travel, right? And it's great that you want to have friends where you are, 100%. But there's a richness to having friends everywhere in South Korea that should you want to travel to Busan, Jeju, Gwangju, Seoul, you have someone that you can kind of hang out with, stay over their place, get a really good feel of their area and their province that you wouldn't get should you have gone alone. And I'm not saying to make friends simply for convenience, you know, try to make authentic connections, of course, but also try to spread yourself out a little bit outside of your province, outside of your city. And if you happen to be in one of the bigger cities like Seoul or Busan, really do try to get out of there and visit safely when you can, when numbers are low, or if you're here longer, and this is after 2020, after Corona, and you're watching this, do try to visit other more rural or smaller cities, because there's so much beauty in South Korea that I think is often overlooked and passed over in favor of places like Seoul or Busan. And there's more to do. There's more to do, more to see. So definitely try to make friends in other provinces. My next thing is, so don't be afraid of file sharing networks. And I'm hoping that this doesn't like come across as like don't do your job. Do your job, lesson plan, try to make things as much as you can, especially if you enjoy making things. But I'm going to say this, there are two types of teachers. There are teachers who enjoy being in front of the class, who enjoy explaining things in person, who are really good with that interpersonal connection, right? And then and you can be a mix of the two, but there are other types of teachers who really enjoy creating curriculum material, who really love doing those PPTs, who really love making those games. And if that's not your strong suit, it doesn't make you a bad teacher. Your strong suit, like I said, might be in class versus making these curriculum materials. For me, I'm that side. I'm not the best at making curriculum material, but I do enjoy making those connections, building that rapport, really doing my best in person to make sure things and concepts and expressions, vocab is understood and locked in. Versus I enjoy kind of using my friends and using file sharing networks to get the base of things. I like using file sharing networks such as Weiguk, such as CoreShare, to have a template and a base of different games and different lesson plans that already are in existence and that you can tweak and make personal. A lot of the times the games aren't going to work for your students because they might be higher or lower in terms of fluency and understanding of English. And so you really want to make sure that you are tailoring these games. It's easy to just click download, save, and just use it the next day, right? Like, anyone can do that. But if you want to make sure that you're being an effective teacher, this is where differentiation comes into play. You want to make sure that you are tailoring each lesson to your students, and only you can do that. Me creating a lesson for my kids is going to look really different than you trying to do a lesson for your kids, right? Because I might be in an area where a lot of my kids go to Hagwon, and I have a lot of kids who lived abroad for a while, and so I have a different level of fluency than someone who lives in Cheongbuk and has like 5 kids in their class and they don't go to Hagwon. So really make sure that even if you use these file sharing networks, don't rely on them. Use them to help you as a base, as a foundation, but don't abuse them. I hope that makes sense. And lastly, I want you to try your best to understand your role fully in Korean society as a whole, okay? As a guest native speaker, if you were a teacher in America, it's gonna look really different. And I think there's a lot of expectations and beliefs of what that will look like and what that is. And I'm going to say this, and this is the reality of our job. You're going to see your kids maybe 1 to 2 times a week. 1 to 2 times a week is not enough time. Whether it's 35 to 45 minutes, it's not enough time to build a fluency. Every school is going to have its own culture, its own, I guess culture is a good word, culture, in which, you know, you're gonna have to play your role. And some schools, you may be used for pronunciation and games, and another school, you have freedom to do as you please. And unfortunately, you don't really get much of a say in that. You can offer your suggestions, but ultimately it is up to your superiors. And so if you're going into this with a set idea of what an EPIK teacher's life job is going to look like, I say scrap it and be open and available to whatever it is that your school wants you to kind of be. And once again, that's not to say that you can't offer your suggestions and ideas, but I do think that it's dangerous to come here with an idea of what your job's going to look like before you've met anyone at your job. And I hope that makes sense and it's not like misinterpreted in any way. But it can be frustrating when you want something to be X and you're being offered Y, and it can make your job slightly miserable because you want to be doing X, but you're doing Y. So honestly, come here with an open mind, learn to work with the system. Camp is going to be your best friend for freedom with a lot of the things. You'll be able to get more creative, you'll be able to get more hands-on, more one-to-one with a lot of students, should you have camp. So that's where you'll be able to let your creativity kind of take the wind there. But in class, day-to-day, honestly, you're going to have to fall within whatever structure your school has in place and expectations your school has in place. So please don't come here with honestly any expectation of what your job's going to look like, because it really does differ, and it's probably the most frustrating thing to hear, but it's the truth. Everyone's situation is going to be different. And I suppose my last tip, I'm going to pull this out of thin air because I really didn't think of a thing to kind of round it all out. Try your best to, even though I said make friends from other provinces, really do try to make authentic relationships with Korean people, with foreigners. Try your best and really do scrap any prior preconceived ideas of what your life is going to look like here, because that is one surefire way to end up miserable, is to come here with an idea of what your life is going to look like based on other people's experiences, based on K-dramas, based on books. Like, do not under any circumstance think you're going to come here and it's going to be a fairy tale, because that's just not the reality of this world. And I think a lot of people, your first, and I want to say this to like a lot of people who are coming here with this fantasy notion of Korea, to understand that its people are just as fallible as in your home country, that its people can be just as great as any of the best people you know. And it's really going to be your own personal journey in this country. And I'm trying to beat around the bush here, but I want to say this. If you're coming here seeking a fantasy, if you're coming here seeking a K-drama, don't. really do come here with that idea that you are in this earth, this world, and with that comes good people, bad people, annoying people, frustrating people, wonderful people, stupendous people, amazing people. And people in Korea are no different in that regard than any other people in this world. And I've just seen so many foreigners kind of idealize the Korean experience, and I just think that it's dangerous to do that to yourself and to the Korean people, to kind of inflict this fantasy onto them that they didn't ask for, in the same way that you hope that no one would do that to you. And just understand that everyone is human and everyone's gonna be fallible. So I hope that's not misconstrued. I'm not saying Koreans are horrible, and I'm not saying that they're not capable of being amazing people, but they're on a spectrum in the same way that Americans are, in the same way that people from the UK are, in the same way that South Africans are. They're not the K-drama actors that you see, and I don't want anyone coming with that assumption and that belief, because it's not true. And just be open and also be smart. And that's pretty much my tips on any incoming EPIK teachers, because it's exciting and terrifying, especially being moving here during a pandemic. So I applaud you if you're coming in 2020 or have been here for a couple months, because I can't imagine what it must be like to be going through this right now. I've been living here, like I said, for over a year and a half, and I don't know if I would have come during this time, and so I applaud you. You are just astounding to have made it this far. So enjoy your time in South Korea. Really do take advantage where you can. Be safe, wear a mask during this pandemic, and make sure that you're making smart choices. You don't want to be the foreigner that's on the cover of Korean news for being a super spreader. That's the last thing that you want to be. So yeah, so take care of yourselves and enjoy Korea. And always feel free to DM me on Instagram if you have any questions or you just need someone to vent to, because it can be lonely out here. So feel free to DM me on Instagram or just leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and I'll try my best to get back to you ASAP. And I will see you guys in my next one. Stay well, stay healthy, wear a mask. Okay, bye. Bye.